So for everyone who might possibly be watching this later, I am doing another unscheduled live stream because why would I tell people they could come here? So this is actually, you can blame Wes S for this one. I wasn't going to go live tonight. I went live on Wes's channel with him, and then afterwards he said you should go live, and so I'm going live. And because my birthday was Wednesday and I had a birthday party today, the thing that's on my mind is my birthday. So the name of the live stream is Happy Birthday to Me. But in reality, I'm just getting on to talk to you men for a while because I actually haven't talked to you recently, and I've missed you. Hey, Aid. And Aidenier is here. And boy, this one was so unplanned, I didn't even text Isaac. He's going to be mad at me. Let me get the chat up. But we're not going to do. Hey, C103. Seahawks' birthday it's today, too. Happy birthday, Seahawks. Okay, the chat is up. All right. So we can only talk about my birthday for so long. I'm 47. I turned 47 on Wednesday. Today was my birthday party, Seahawk. Yeah. October 5th is a very inauspicious day. I think the oh, Isaac, good you're here. Thank you. If you go back to the very start of the stream, Isaac, you'll see that I mentioned I didn't tell Isaac. Hey, Walter Davis, but that's because it was completely unplanned. I wasn't going to do this 10 minutes ago. I wasn't going to do a live stream, so I'm only 4 years younger than your father. Oh, you asshole. So this is a completely unscheduled live stream. Walter Davis is 56. Let me tell you, I have loved my 40s. This has been, no doubt, hands down, the best decade of my life. No other decades even come close. I don't. 50 is Tennessee. 8 is 48. Charles turned 50 in April. There's no other decade in my life that has even come close to being as good as my 40s have been. It has been fantastic. Let's see. I married Mariah. I was towards the end of my 30s when I married Mariah. I think I might have been 38, 39, 37, probably 37. Because I'm 7 years older than her, and I think I remember her turning 30 right about the time we got married. So I was probably 37 when Mariah and I got married. Shalom, Hunter Kirk. So I guess I should say, 37 is close enough to 40. But yeah, my 40s have been a wonderful decade. I got over some of that young man stupidity. Oh, dear God, I was such an idiot young man. Got a little bit of, perspective, and all of the weirdness going on in your head all the time kind of calms down a little bit. You're still physically capable. I'm probably stronger, like just physically, like, I can probably pick up more heavy weight than I could have at any point in my life, but obviously I don't have the stamina I used to have, where I could go 3 days without sleeping and, run like a deer for miles on end. And so like I don't, obviously I'm not as physically capable as I was at 24 in the Marines or anything, but still not. I don't feel like my increased mental anarchy television. My increased mental capacity has more than offset whatever physical decline there's been. I'm still competitive, but it's just been a very good year, good decade, good year. It's been a good year too, but a very, very, very good decade. Uh, my 30s were, like I said, I married Mariah at 37, and that's kind of, I know the moment my life changed. Well, to me, the moment that represents my life changing. When Mariah and I got married, well, no, before we were dating, and she was real. she had three daughters, and she kept a real firm barrier between me and her daughters, obviously, because we were dating, and she just wasn't going to expose her daughters to just some random guy she was dating. But about the time we figured out, we knew pretty early that we were going to stay together, and kind of the first thing we did with together as a proto family. We weren't a family yet, but the first time we kind of did anything with her girls, we went to cut a Christmas tree at this Christmas tree farm way up in the mountains in North Carolina. Uh, and that's kind of my thing. Cutting wood is what I'm good at. And so we hiked way up to the top, because the thing was you had to go way up to the top of this mountain, and it's a damn ski slope. I mean, it's just, and you go way up to the top to where the Christmas trees they didn't manicure were. These were just trees that got planted, but they were so far up the top of this mountain. You would get up there and you would look down and watch eagles flying down in the valley below you. I mean, that's how high up you are. And you go up there and you cut the best unmanicured Christmas tree you could. And we hike up there with a chainsaw. And so we gone up there and found this Christmas tree, and I'm coming back down with this Christmas tree over my shoulder and my chainsaw in the other hand. And it wasn't a big tree and it wasn't a big saw, but her oldest daughter was 9 at the time, and my life had been really bad for a really long time. Things had not been going well, even for an idiot like me. When the great blessing of being a moron is that every day is new and every day is exciting, and it's possible something good could happen just any moment. So that's the payoff for being an idiot. But even with that sort of retardedly optimistic outlook towards life, things were not going well for me. Uh, and I was coming back down the mountain, and they were trailing behind me. And this little beautiful, my oldest stepdaughter is one of the most heart-stoppingly beautiful young woman you'll ever meet. She is gorgeous. Uh, this beautiful 9-year-old girl is walking behind me, and she looks at her mom and she says, "Mom, he's perfect." And it's this guy who, uh, thank you, Arcadio. I'd been in jail, not fairly recently. I'd been without a driver's license. I'd been, waiting tables at Applebee's, and, homeless, living with my parents, divorced, child out of wedlock. I mean, things were just bad. It was just bad. And no one liked me. I didn't even like me at the time. And this little, this beautiful little girl telling her mother that was the moment that, man, everything just sort of got better right then. Uh, Hey, Landon. Uh, and so that would have been about 36. Uh, but yeah, no, I can look at that moment and say that's the moment when things changed. That when things started getting better. Uh, 27 pieces of flair. We didn't have the flair at Applebee's then. I think that was TGI. I know what you're talking about. It's that old, was it Waiting? It was Jennifer Aniston was in it, and she didn't have enough flair on her uniform. They keep wanting her to get buttons and all this. We didn't have that when I worked at Applebee's. Uh, Thank you, Aid. Uh, it was a nice moment. I still I think back on that moment and it makes me happy. Office Space. That's right, Office Space. Uh, but yeah, that was a nice moment. Uh, so, what else are we going to talk about? It's a little sad this year. Not sad. Not sad. Not sad at all. It's been a good year. I just spent time with lots of my children and a granddaughter, and we smoked cigars, and not the not the granddaughter. I didn't smoke cigars with the granddaughter. I smoked cigars with two of my sons and my son-in-law. And my son-in-law he brought me a nice cigar. I don't remember, what was it? I don't remember what it was now, but he got me a real nice cigar. Uh, and we sort of just sat there and told stories and had fun. I was going to be working on this axe handle while we did this, but I can't do. Thank you, Ungrateful Peasant. I can't do two things at once. I have a one-track mind. So, what should we talk about? What's going on in the chat? Worked at Red Robin. I think I've eaten at a Red Robin. I've seen that somewhere. It's not a common one down south though. Expensive cigar. It wasn't. What? That's my son-in-law there, Captain Nemo. It was a good cigar though, Nemo. Thank you, Minuteman. Minuteman for Jesus. What a great name. Thank you, Tim. Uh, what kind of cigar was that, Nemo? It was a good one. I enjoyed it. It wasn't harsh, but it wasn't the sweet spot that hit with a cigar is that it's pleasant to smoke, but it's still it slaps you, but it doesn't hit you. Went to one of my girls' 30th surprise party today at her father-in-law's. It was awesome seeing all the little kids running around. Yeah, it is. Uh, But the thing with a cigar is it's got to be strong enough to make you feel like you've done something, but not unpleasant to smoke. Robust. Well done, Kevin. Robust. Oh yeah, we did meet Aid this year, uh, up at the Sasquatches. It is a good year. The Sasquatch is getting married. I don't think he would mind me saying he's getting married. I better not. I don't have his permission to say anything about that. Uh, but yeah, it was robust. It was pleasant, but it wasn't like when you were done, it wasn't like that was too much. Which sometimes they are, and sometimes the cigar will be really good, but like it'll get right past halfway, and you're like, oh, okay, I'd like to be done, but you don't want to waste half of a good cigar, and so you feel like you got to keep smoking it. The Padre Mets series is going to Game 3. Interesting. I am. I still carry that IWI, Isaac. Uh, I've been playing around with an idea. I'm never going to do anything with this idea though. I don't want to be this guy, but I'm going to be this guy. My thing is always that pizza, cake, silverware, watermelon. Yeah. Uh, my thing has always been you don't save weight on your pistol or your weapon at all. You know, I say that I have an ultralight AR-15, but the thing about my ultralight AR-15 is that I don't give up any features, and I still was able to have it light. So it's still got the 20-inch barrel. It's got a full-size stock. You can make it light if you don't give up features, but I say, don't give up features to make your weapon lighter. That's ridiculous. Not ridiculous. I understand why people do it. And now I've been carrying this. I still think of it as the Baby Eagle. That's what they used to call this pistol when it first came out. Now they call it the Jericho. I still think of it as the Baby Eagle. I've been carrying this Baby Eagle, and it carries fine. I don't mind the weight, but it doesn't conceal. It's open carry, and I'm a big advocate for open carry. I can talk to you men honestly. Someone said happy birthday. Who was that? It was Dope Heathen. Thank you, Dope Heathen. Uh, but I'm a big advocate of open carry to normalize carry. I want it to be just a normal thing that all men carry weapons, and that it's understood that a man's got a pistol on him, that there's no need to conceal it because everyone's got a pistol. And I think the way to do that is to open carry. And also open carry is more tactical. That's why cops in the military open carry. Thank you, Lance Corporal Veteran. It's not tactical to conceal carry. You can always get your pistol quicker if it's, accessible. But there's times when I want to be concealed, There's just times when it's you're somewhere nice, or, it's just not optimal to have this giant pistol on your hip. So I have been playing around, and this is probably out there. I don't know if it is or not, but if it's not, it should be. A 1911, but yeah, Hunter Kirk, you can. A 1911, but sized for 308, but not a micro, one that you can get your full hand on, that can take 7 or 8 rounds, but it's just a 308 size 1911. I think that would be a really, really good. I know some people don't like. I said 308. I'm sorry, I meant 380. Thank you, Isaac. 308, 308 1911. That'd be a great concealed weapon. What are you talking about, you jackass? 308, 1911. Have some imagination. 380. I know some people don't like, thank you, Camo Dad. Oh, see, it's out there. Herman's Nerd says it's called an XDM. And Aiden says Browning makes one. And it also would be a great carry gun for Mariah. And Isaac says Colt and Sig make 3.8 baby 1911. But okay, but here are they micros? And are they just 45 ACP frames that are, chambered in 1911? Or, because now you're going to laugh at me again. I don't like the 1911 pistol grip. I have stubby fingers. God created these hands for gripping shovels and axes, not for playing pianos. And I have these short stubby fingers, and I don't like the grip. It's too long. I would want a thinner grip. I would want a 308 sized 1911, but one that's essentially full size. Now, all of you guys obviously know Isaac is saying the Colt Mustang steel frame, micro LCP size, 6-shot mag, 380, 1911 style. I will look at it. And an ungrateful peasant is saying the Springfield EMP was designed from the ground up for 9mm, not just a 1911 frame. And Liberty Garden would like to see a Walter PPK in 9mm. And I've actually thought about the Walter, because it's a great little 3. But I've heard bad things about the PPK, that it's not a reliable weapon. I don't know. But yeah, so, and, I borrowed it when Mariah was first talking about maybe wanting to carry, or at least have the option to carry. It's a barbecue gun. I like barbecue guns. I borrowed a LCP, the little Ruger 380. You all know what an LCP is. Good night, Nemo. Young men can't hack it. Oh, wow, midnight, and the young man's already fallen out. Oh, that's sad. I bet your dad's still up, Nemo. It's all right. It's all right. That's a beautiful baby girl. We can deal with you being a little bit of a wuss, not being able to hang with the old men. It's fine. It's fine. Les and Sharon are here. And he loves the GP 100. But I brought that LCP home, and I'd never shot one before, I'll be honest. And I didn't like it. You can't get a pinky on it. And even, does a barbecue gun mean your best favorite gun? Wes, have you not, Ada is living with you in Texas, and you haven't told him what a barbecue gun is? And it wasn't pleasant to shoot. And you're shooting 380. It shouldn't be snappy. There's a concealed carry axe. Oh, why would you do that to me, Lance Corporal Veteran? I won't be able to let that go now. I'll have to have a concealed carry axe. Adam over at North Point Axe, back when he was still making axes, the Phillies swept the Cards. That's a shame. I was wanting the Cardinals to make a deep run this year. Thank you, Tubba Tubba. If you're going to have a snappy gun, then get 9mm. The whole point of, not that 9mm is snappy, you guys work with me here. The whole point about 380 is it's this light, controllable, pow, 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 get away, get away, get away. It doesn't have to be a 357 Magnum or a 10mm, it's, so I didn't like it at all. And I gave it back to the guy I borrowed it from and said, appreciate it, but he wasn't trying to sell it. He just lent it to me, but I didn't like it. I wanted something that I could get my hand on. It's going to be slim, and ungrateful peasants, right? So that's just what I've been thinking about. Would it be great to have a small 1911 and 380? But when I say small, I don't mean compact. I mean just smaller, designed to fit the round, and still fill your hand and still be, easy to grip. But it's just, maybe it's even still a 4-inch barrel. Maybe that 380 only needs a 3-inch barrel. I don't know. The 22 mag does beat a sharp stick. My only problem with the 22 mag is that it's rimfire, and my only problem with rimfire is that they're just not quite as reliable. And for a self-defense weapon, reliability is, number one. So there's a really cool 380 PCC pistol caliber carbine. What was it called? I think it's the Scorpion, maybe. I think it was CZ. I don't know. It's this little tiny thing with a fold out wire stock, and it's really cool. But anywho, so that's just what I've been thinking about. Not that I would switch. I can't afford sharp stick then. No, it's better than the sharp stick, Herman. You're right. Oh, Isaac, you're right. That was 32 ACP. You were right. Damn it, you're on fire tonight, Isaac. Well, actually, I was really interested in that 30 Super Carry when they first put it out. But what I was reading is that it's a little snappy with a bunch of blast and fireball and a concussion. I don't know. So that's just I don't know how I got off on all that. That's just what I'm interested in right now. It would be a gun for Mariah to carry, and then a gun that sometimes I would. Yeah, that 30 Super Carry. I don't. It's interesting, but I guess uh, it's its advantage is that you can get more rounds in a magazine in the same size magazine, and you can. I think you can basically get 2 more rounds. Uh, but when I think about a carry round, boy, it just seems like it should be a well balanced round. It should be shootable with follow up shots, and you got to think about shooting this thing in a parking garage with no earmuffs on. Shooting the gun can't be more unpleasant than uh, whatever the consequences of whoever you're shooting was going to do to you if you didn't shoot them. I didn't say that well. Yeah, I agree. And grateful present peasant. I don't think 30 Super Carry is going to catch on. I had a 45 gap briefly. I had traded. I had, being poor is awful. It's just terrible being poor. I had this Ruger Blackhawk in 41 Magnum. I love 41 Magnum. I love 41 Magnum. I would marry 41 Magnum if I could. But the religion of peace was driving trucks through Christmas markets, and I decided it was time to have a legitimate carry pistol because that Blackhawk is Ruger Blackhawk, 6-inch barrel, single shot Army, you know what a Blackhawk is. It's not a carry gun. And so back then there used to be these trading groups on Facebook, and you could have the gun group. The gun groups you could trade firearms, and I just got on one of these trading groups and I put it up there to trade, and some guy came back with 32 Smith and Wesson is an interesting caliber. Some guy came back with, hey, I've got this Glock. It was a state trooper backup gun. I can't remember. I think it was a Glock 50 if I remember correctly, but I might be making that up. And it was chambered in gap, 45 gap, and I think he had 100 rounds of gap ammunition, and he threw in a bucket of 1,000 rounds of 22 long rifle. And I knew I didn't want it, but I knew I knew it was a good deal. Especially at the time, we were in one of those ammo scarcities, and 22 was hard to find. And I thought, 25, 1,000 rounds of 22, fine. I took it, and I like the three. I haven't shot the 327 Herman, but it really interests me. Really interests me. I have a weakness for obscure revolver cartridges. So I kept the 1,000 rounds ammunition. I never even fired that Glock because I knew I didn't want it. It was real small. I didn't like the way it fit in the hand. The 45 gap seemed weird. It had a state trooper emblem on the side of the slide. It didn't sit well with me. So I turned around instantly, put it back up on the site, and traded it for a SIG 2022, which was a 9 millimeter, and it was jamming on me. Like every magazine, it would jam. Yeah, yeah, that would be great, Isaac. A 327 lever action and a revolver. I think that would be an awesome little combo. But I had a wrist injury at work. I'd cut myself real bad. I think I don't know, 20 or 30 stitches, and some of them were internal, and it had actually exposed the artery. Like when it happened, you could see the artery, pulsing. I don't know how it didn't. I don't know how it like it cut everything but the artery. The artery. Hey, Saxon, thank you. The artery was completely exposed. Anyway, so this hand was all messed up, and I just thought I was limp wristing. You might even be able to. I don't know if y'all can see that. You kind of see that scar there. That was it. So I thought the uh, the problems were me limp wristing, because this hand was it was like 2 or 3 years before it got back to normal, and it probably still isn't still perfectly normal. So I put that SIG back up because I thought I was going to keep the SIG. I kind of liked it. But I put the SIG back up, and someone offered me a Ruger Security 6, which what I had wanted. Hey, thank you, Errol. I appreciate that. What I had wanted when I started that whole process was I'd wanted a GP 100. I've always loved the GP 100s. They feel great in the hand. I wanted a 4-inch barrel GP 100. And this guy offers me this Ruger Security 6, which I had heard of, I was familiar with, but I hadn't, looked into it all. So he offers me this Security 6, and I'm like, oh, and I'm reading all about the Security 6 and everything. So that's how I got that Security 6, and got rid of that 45 gap micro thing. Uh, yeah, 38 Special is a great round. I agree. 38 Special does. Thank you, William. 38 Special does a lot of things well or adequately. So the 380, Lance Corporal veteran, and you probably know this stuff more than I do. My understanding is that 380 was kind of a standard European military cartridge prior to the. Yeah, I do like the Blackhawk. Prior to the 9 millimeter, sort of, and it was a very gradual process that 9 millimeter replaced 380. But my understanding is that 380 was the sort of the standard European military and police cartridge for a long time, and that the 9 millimeter was originally, and all of you know this too. I don't know why I'm wasting your time with this. The 9 millimeter was really originally designed by I can't remember who did it. I used to know the name. It was a German guy uh, who they were trying to get the Luger into American pistol trials. The I'm 47, Mountain Truth. Uh, and this was 1907, I think, or 19. This was the pistol trials that ended up adopting the 1911, and they wanted to get the Luger into the trials, and America said, not in that cartridge. It was in some 7.65 cartridge. I don't remember what it was. Uh, yeah, 32 ACP was also kind of standard. In fact, that might have been what the Luger was originally comparable to. It might have been 32 ACP. It does blow lungs out. And so the Germans quick came up with 9 millimeter just to, because when they showed it to the Americans, we're like, oh, that's a sissy cartridge. And so they developed 9 millimeter real quick to try to have a slightly more powerful cartridge. And then they actually and so they submitted that, and America was like, no, we must have 45. And I wish my 9 millimeter blew lungs out. uh, and so then the Germans went back, and they chambered several Lugers in 45 to resubmit to the trials. But obviously the 1911 one, it was always going to win. Browning had that one hands down. American ordnance, and he should have. I mean, the 1911 was a great pistol. I'm not dissing it. The Luger was very German, great pistol, but it was very expensive to manufacture, and beautiful machining, and all the parts were serialized. It's just very, very, very German. And the 19, it was just never going to get adopted in America. Anyway, so the 9 millimeter was originally designed for America. It was the a German's take on what an American might find acceptable in a service pistol, and then we spit on it, in Europe. As far as Europe was concerned, because here's the dirty little secret. Prior to World War II, and maybe even after World War II, the only people who carried pistols were officers, and the only reason officers needed pistols was so that they could shoot their own troops if they tried to retreat. That's why officers carried pistols, just to protect themselves from their own troops. 32 ACP is fine if you're shooting a private in the back of the head because he's malingering. Uh, you won't find a whole lot of support for that statement, but I stand by it. That's pretty much the only reason why European officers needed pistols. 32 ACP was fine for executing troops, your own troops. And of course, in America, we were like, you're even back then in 1911, you were still, your pistols were used from horseback. There was still cavalry. We didn't take cavalry over for World War One, but that was 1918 before we got over there. In 1911, we still had cavalry, and it was still doctrine for the cavalry to have pistols that they would shoot off horseback. Well, one argument that will never be made is that due to modern ammunition, 45 is finally adequate as a defensive cartridge. So are you dissing 45 as a defensive cartridge? Or are you being sarcastic against people who say it's not adequate as a defensive cartridge? Because I am not a big fan of 45. I think it was the right solution at the time. I think it was a reasonable solution at the time. In a world where you have 9 millimeter, 9 millimeter is the better option. But for where America was at and what our experiences were up to that point, it makes sense that they wanted a 45. This was 1911. This was early. Britain wouldn't get rid of its Webleys for. They went into World War II with the Webley. I don't know when they finally switched over to the high power. So a 45 cartridge at low chamber pressures and a lower velocity. A big heavy bullet moving slow is what people knew. That's just it. It was the standard. It was the standard in America. Wayne, anonymous American. So it makes sense. America's been using the 45. Was it the 45 Colt? What did they call that round? I don't remember. Anyway, they'd been using the 45. It had worked well. They had tried something different. I think they tried a 38, and it didn't work well for them in the Philippines, and they went back to their 45, and it makes perfect sense that they want the 45. Heavy bullet, moving slow. These are people who, the people making these decisions had grown up on black powder and, smokeless powder and semi-autos. This was already too much. There'd already been all the change they could handle. Right, it was never called the long Colt. It was called 45 Colt. I couldn't remember if they called it 45 Colt. Yes, the 45 ACP is a lung blower. 250 grain bullets at 950 feet per second. I was thinking it was 220 at around 900 feet per second, but that's so close as to be noted. That's a distinction without a difference. So the 45, if 9 millimeter was an option, and technically the 9 millimeter is the better option, but the inputs, the informational inputs they had to work with, uh, is it makes sense that they went with the 45 ACP. It just does. I get it. It probably doesn't make sense that they held on to it as long as they did, except when you stop and realize that, at least from a military standpoint, pistols are irrelevant. A pistol is really almost just an authority symbol for officers. They're not, they don't come into play uh, in combat. You know, that's why the 30 carbine and the M1 carbine was developed, because they did this big analysis, and they realized no one's killing anyone with pistols in combat. And so they had to come up with a better option for those troops they had been giving pistols because a big rifle got in the way. Tankers and artillery, and these guys were getting pistols, and pistols weren't enough. Now tankers still get pistols. Tankers need pistols because the tanks are difficult, but to maneuver in. And that's why they came up with the 30 carbine, and it was a great solution, because, like I said, pistols aren't a great option tactically. Pistols are to get you to your rifles. You all know that. All pistols are underpowered. I carry both 9 millimeter and 45 and don't feel undergunned with either. No, no, not in self-defense. Look, a revolver, you're not underpowered with a revolver in self-defense. I can't remember. I think it was In Range TV who talks about this, but it could have been Paul Harrell, or maybe they both do. Self-defense is 3 trigger pulls, 3 seconds. Well, there's not a modern pistol. I mean, you'd have to be shooting a flintlock to not be able to do that. Yes, most self-defense shootings are all, it takes place within 3 trigger pulls within 3 seconds. What doesn't do that? Everything does that. Snub nose revolver does that. A pistol is to shoot your way to a flamethrower. That's nice. I like that. A 1911 does that. Ruger Security 6 does that. USP, H&K USP, one of the more overrated pistols I've ever shot. I briefly, my brother had a really nice USP in 45, and he got in some money trouble, and so I gave him money for it. I thought I had bought it, but it turns out I had just pawned it from him. And actually, I don't remember if he paid me back or not, but he got his pistol back. Anyway, but I had the pistol for about a year, and I was woefully underwhelmed by that thing. Woefully underwhelmed. It was heavy, which, like I said, I don't mind heavy, but it was super heavy for no real purpose. I didn't see the purpose for this thing being that heavy. It was very, very, very German. And my brother kept telling me, yes, well, you can submerge it in salt water for 18 months and pull it out and shoot it. Yeah, no, because the bullets won't work. But, and why are you submerged? Why is that even? I have the same problem with aid. If I'm sticking my finger in your pain, I apologize. I have the same question with the metric system. I don't get it. Because you'll talk to these Europeans who are all about the metric system, and they'll tell you, well, it's easily convertible. If you ever want to convert, meters into kilometers, all you have to do is move the decimal point. Okay, but when in my life do I ever need to convert miles into feet? This is not a thing for me. I don't need to do this. I don't need to know. I never I don't go to the grocery store, look at the milk aisle and say, I wonder how many pints of milk is in all of these gallons. It's not a thing. I don't need to do it. I don't need to submerge my pistol in salt water for 18 months. I don't need to know how many deciliters is in a deciliter. It's not a relevant thing to my life. You are not improving anything by this incredible change you want to enact on me, where I have to buy my gas in liters instead of gallons. But yes, now you'll be able to easily say how many deciliters are is in that liter of gas. Who cares? It's a hell 10 milliliters. 10 milliliters is a great round. It's a gallon of gas. That's all I need to know about it. I don't need to know what a thousandth, what is a hundredth of a gallon of gas. You don't know. Yes, I do. It's a hundredth of a gallon of gas. That's all I need to know. Anyway, metric isn't easy. Don't get me started on the metric, Mountain Truth. I hate the metric. It is so stupid. Thank you, Pullman. I appreciate that. It's just ridiculous. The French have this obsession with remaking the world in their image right after, in the throes of the French Revolution, which got, I mean, just stupidly ridiculous. The French Revolution fascinates me. I've consumed thousands of pages and hundreds of hours of content on the French Revolution. Yeah, otherwise known as $10. Very nice. But at the height of the French Revolution, they decided, okay, we've got to remake society. The only way that we can accomplish our goals is to remake society. So they go on this crusade. This just, I mean, tilting at windmills doesn't even begin to describe this. So they decide that instead of having 12 months in the year, they're going to change it so that there's only 10 months in the year. Does this sound familiar? Why do we need 10 months in the year? Well, because it's easier to divide by 10. Why you need to divide a year by 10, I don't know. And so to do all this, now they have to change the months, the weeks in the months. They change the days in a week. So they make, I don't remember exactly how they did this, but they make a week 10 days long. And then they only give you one day off in that 10-day week, of course. But then they had these things you were supposed to think about on that day off. So there would, like, this one month would be dedicated to liberté, and so there would be these things on your one day off in 10 that you were supposed to focus on for that day. And then the next month would be égalité, and anyway, and so then they changed. I think they changed the time. They made a day 10 hours long. Anyway, so they just did this. They did away with all time, and they redid it all in this 10, divisible by 10 system. There were 10 hours in a day, there were 10 days in a week. Can't remember, there could have been 10 weeks in a month, but then there were 10 months in a year, and they renamed it all. And then they even decided that this is how crazy these people were. They decided that religion is bad, but people need religion, so they made this new religion. And they made a religion of reason, and they worshiped reason, and they actually even made these giant idol of your reason that they literally worshipped reason. And so to me, the metric system is just, it's this one more desperate French attempt to remake the world divisible by tens, and the world is not divisible by tens. Their other claims was that if society ever fell to the point where we lost the definition of a meter, then they could always be rediscovered, because a meter was, they took a measurement from the South Pole to the North Pole along this one particular line that ran right through France, and then they divided it into whatever 10,000s or something, and that's where they got the length of a meter from. And so it was all, thank you, John, and it would always be rediscoverable. Well, of course, they find out later they got the measurement wrong. So you can't even rediscover what a meter is, because the division doesn't work. And of course, the Earth actually isn't that static as they think, and it's just silly. I mean, the whole thing's silly. It doesn't do anything they said it would do, and the few things it does do that they claim is irrelevant. It doesn't make anyone's life any better. I get it, scientists, engineers. Okay, maybe when you're designing the space station, and maybe you do need something much more precise. it's not actually more precise. It's just a little bit easier to say and write. Think about it. At the end of the day, you can do fractions down to millionths. You can't get any more precise with metric than you can with standard. It's just, it's a little easier when you start dealing with, 732 thousandths. Okay, that's a little, and I just made that up. I don't know if that's a real measurement or not. But 732 thousandths is a little more cumbersome than, pentaliters or whatever the hell you did. I don't meters. So fine, great. In science, do it. But you don't need to drag the rest of us down into this ridiculous system just because the French don't want to use the imperial system. Okay. I don't know how I got off on all of that. Anyone that still has a king or queen on their money can pack sand. Hey, Errol, I had a beer earlier in the night. I just don't have any right now. I did have a nice big Coca-Cola, though. Ooh, that was nice. Oh, look at that. 1.75 liters. Not only am I drinking unhealthy things that support people whose ideology I hate. Oh, they have ounces on here, too. So look at this. 1.25 liters or 42.2 fluid ounces. What's the difference? They're still using decimal points. So why wouldn't they just say 125 deciliters? Why are they doing 1.25? The whole point of their system here is that it's easily convertible into the smaller or bigger units, so you don't need the decimals. So why use the decimal? Because people's minds don't work like that. If you teach us a gallon, we think a gallon. If you teach us a liter, we think a liter. And if you, it's just silly. We grow popcorn. We grow our own popcorn, and we grow our own peanuts. And my delightful bride, here's some of our peanuts, roasted peanuts. They're good. My delightful bride took our homegrown popcorn and our homegrown peanuts and combined them into caramel corn. People's minds work. It was so good. Carry bullets that have millimeter on them. Yes, but I converted in my mind. It's not 9mm. It's 0.355. Ha! Take that. You haven't had popcorn until you've grown it yourself. I don't know why it's so good. Probably just because you've done all that labor. But it is really, really good. Here, I'll show you. We actually didn't grow any this year because we have so much left over from last year. But I know if you compare it to a regular corn cob, it looks very, very different. I know right here it just looks like corn. But the kernels are much, much smaller. They're on smaller ears. They're more round. I don't really have anything to do this on, but I'll do it anyway. And you can do it by hand. I can do it by hand. Mariah doesn't like to do it by hand. Isaac, it's popcorn. There's different varieties of popcorn, but you just buy it as popcorn seed. Regular corn doesn't pop, but you can just twist it off by hand if you're not a girl. And it goes a long way. So I could do it a little bit quicker if I wasn't trying to not make a mess. And that pops up to a decent size. And it grows better than oh, we're losing the tradesman. Thank you, tradesman. He wasn't interested in popcorn. It grows better than regular corn. A little easier. Yeah, and Liberty Gardens got it right. Cooking is where the metric system just falls flat on its face, because cooking is not precise. It's this art, and there's some intuition to it, and it just doesn't lend itself to the sterile tenths of a metric system. But anywho, I don't remember how I got off on the metric system. What was I angry? Oh, I was angry about my brother, all happy about being able to sink his HK USP in salt water for 18 months and pull it out and shoot it. Why? Why? Why do I need to know how many centimeters it takes to get from Paris to Lyon? I don't. Tell me the miles. I don't even need to know the fractions of a mile. Get me within a mile. That's fine. That's all I need to know. And tell me how many gallons of gas I'm going to need from Paris to Lyon. I don't need to know how many pints. I don't need to know how many ounces. I need to know miles, gallons. I'm good. I'm good. Okay, Lance Corporal Veteran says, I don't take care of my corn, so I don't get any field corn, but I did harvest sweet corn, even though most came out small. Corn takes up a lot of resources. It's a lot of space, especially the sweet corn. You gotta weed it, and it needs water, and it uses a lot of. It's heavy. It's hard on the soil. It takes a lot out of the soil, but it can produce quite well if you give it all that, and it, don't let it have competition, and you can get quite a lot out of it. Especially some of the field corns. Silver King has done really well for us. I don't remember what sweet corn we planted this year. Oh no, Silver King is a sweet corn. Yeah. And Silver King has done very, very well for us. And then of course the popcorn is, look, that's a whole kernel right there. It's just missing the tip. And with this popcorn, it doesn't matter if it doesn't, if it doesn't pollinate well and you've got empty kernels. Because the way the corn works, you've all seen the silk coming off of the top. All of that silk, every strand of that silk comes down to one of these kernels. And each one of those strands of silk has to catch a piece of pollen. And then so each one of these kernels is how that pollen travels down and pollinates these seeds down here. And so like these empty spots, that's where a piece of silk didn't catch a piece of pollen, and so the seed wasn't created. And so corn needs to be planted in big blocks because it's pollinated by wind mostly. And so like if you've got a long skinny row and the wind doesn't blow exactly right at the exact right time, then it's not going to pollinate. But then it's also got to turn around and blow the other way. So because if it just blew from left to right, then yeah, the pieces down at the end would be pollinated well if the wind blew perfectly, but the plant all the way at the beginning wouldn't be pollinated at all. So it needs to be planted in blocks. It needs to be planted in big blocks, and then it needs enough nutrients, and it needs water, and it's not something like a bean or a pea or a sweet potato where you just plant it and it's gonna it's gonna go squash. In France, you can have a free hour with a sex worker of your preferred gender if you get vaccinated. So I guess staying unvaccinated keeps you healthier in more than one way. Wow. A free hour for getting vaccinated. I tell you, Sharon, are you in here? Sharon, if you're still in here, cover your ears. Uh, I'm kidding. I'm a grown ass man. You would think farmers would drive around with PTO fans behind their tractors. Errol wants to know vaccinated for what? He's willing to entertain this idea if the vaccine is acceptable. Uh, I've been to a strip club. Now, I don't understand. I mean, I kind of do. But if you think about a strip club, it's $20 to get in, depending on where you're at. Sometimes it's $10. I've heard. And then there's a 2 drink minimum. So, and the drinks are expensive. You know, you're going to spend $15 for on those 2 drinks. So you're inside for $35. Okay. Then you're not a jackass. Now Cronin says strip clubs are a waste of money. Strip clubs are a waste of money if you get lap dances. Lap dances are the worst, are stupid waste of money. But if you don't get lap dances, so it's $35 to get in, and then you sit on the stage, and every girl who comes out, you throw $2 on the stage. You just give them $2. You go on a Thursday, Friday night. Thursday nights are better because there's not the crowds, but the good girls are there. So $35 to get in. Now that $35 includes 2 drinks. Now don't forget this. You're getting 2 beers. You're getting 2 beers and you're getting in the strip club. And then you're sitting on the stage and you're throwing $2. And you stay for an hour, 2 hours. Let's say you stay for 2 hours. And you see, sometimes there's 20 girls. So for $2, and by the way, that girl, she doesn't get any of that $35. You know, the club got the cover charge. The club is getting the drinks. The girl's getting those $2 you're throwing on the stage. And for $2, she's stripping down naked, and she's rolling around on the floor, and she's climbing up and down poles for $2. This is a great deal for you, for me, for the man. For $2, if you walk down the street, if you walk down any street in America and you walked up to a pretty girl and handed her $2 and asked her to flash you're not getting flashed. So let's say you stay at this strip club, and let's say there's 20 girls, and you tip all 20 girls $2. So now you're in for $40, or 40. You've added $40 to your 35. Now you're $75 in. You've had 2 drinks, and you've seen 20 sets of breasts. Actually, you've seen a lot more than that, but you know, Sharon might not have covered her ears. Let's keep it a little clean. All for $75. You've seen 20 women naked and had a couple beers. That's not a bad deal for you. It's a terrible deal for those girls, though. How is this a good financial decision for $2? I'm going to let you see me naked. This is awful. If you walked up to any woman in the world and threw $2 on the ground where she had to pick it up, you're not even handing her the money. You're throwing it on the ground, and she has to bend down and pick it up, and then strip down naked. This is an insane financial transaction here. No one would do this, especially because there's probably only 10 men around that stage. Not all 10 of them are throwing $2 up there. You know, that dance, she probably only nets, you know, 20, $50 at the top, at the most. How many men would flash a woman for $2? I'd do it for free. And you've never been to South Boston, I see $2 goes a long way with the girls. Now, if you go to a strip club, and I have seen this personally. I went with a young man one time. I have not been to the strip club I mean, fewer than 10 times in my entire life. If I sat down and thought about it, I could come up with how many times I've been to a strip club. I don't go to strip clubs very much. Let's see. Let's see if I can come up with it. 3, 4, 5, 6. I've probably been to the strip club 6 times in my life. I might have left a time or two out, but I doubt it. So in the 6 times I've been to the strip club, and I was in my 30s before I ever went, by the way. Young men should stay out of strip clubs. Young men are stupid. They don't have. So I went to a strip club one time with a young man. And I already have my system worked out. I know how this works. You do not, under any circumstances, get a dance. You don't do it. It's a waste of money. It's not fun. I mean, it's not unfun, but it's not worth what it costs. It only lasts a few minutes. If that does it for you, then you have a medical issue you need to seek help for. Because seriously, I mean, that shouldn't do it for you. It doesn't. You need to seek psychiatric help if it does. So we walk in, and we don't even get to the table. and one of these girls, and it wasn't even the prettiest girl in the place, she's got him. And she walked up to him and she said like maybe a sentence, and they're walking in the back. Like he didn't get sat down. He didn't see the girls that were there. As soon as he walked in, this one girl who wasn't the best looking girl there pigeonholes him, and he's gone. Boom. We haven't been in this club 2 minutes yet. I kid you not. I swear we haven't been in there 2 minutes. So he's gone for his 3 songs, and he comes back, and he has spent every dollar for those 3 songs in the back. He's flat busted. He's got nothing. And he had to sit there for 2 hours while me and our other buddy drank beer and threw $2 at a time up on the stage. Now, you ever want to make a stripper mad? Go to a strip club and don't get a dance. It drives them nuts. They hate it because they know what a terrible deal it is for them. It's a horrible deal for them. If they can't get you in the back for those 2 or 3 songs, whatever it is, they're working their asses off for $20. It's not worth it. How did we get off on the strip clubs? I don't remember how we got off onto this. But if you do ever go to a strip club, don't get a dance. No dances. Here's one of the ironclad rules. Ladies, cover your ears. This is one of the ironclad rules for being a man. Do not ever pay for an orgasm. Never. Do not ever pay for an orgasm. Not once. Not once in your life do you pay for an orgasm. This is a very, very simple thing to achieve. The reasons you're paying for someone to do that for you is not for the orgasm itself. There's other things going on there. You can achieve those things in other much cheaper, much more hygienic ways, and you can handle all the other issues yourself. Do not ever pay. This is like there should be 10 rules for men or however many rules there are. Rule like 4 or 5, do not pay for orgasms. I don't know what Isaac's paying for, but don't pay for it. While we were talking about the strip clubs, our viewer count went up into the mid-30s. And another rule to live by is never get into a fight at a strip club. There's nothing in there worth fighting over. Oh, dear God. Don't do it. Now, I've known people, and I don't know if this is what Mountain Truth is alluding to or not. I know men who say, oh, I will always pay up front. I will go hire a hooker, and well, I'll get what I need, and then I'm good for a month. And they say that's the cheapest way, and it's the least. I don't get that. If all you want a woman for is, uh, you know, a transactional orgasm, yeah, I don't get it. If that's all you need a woman for, then you don't need a woman. So don't waste your money. Go find something that gives you a thrill and makes you feel good about yourself and save your money. Yeah, it is a MGTOW thing, Isaac. Uh, I get what they're saying when they say it. I'm not getting married because it's a bad deal, and it's not worth. But if that's all you have use for a woman for, then you really don't have use for a woman. So don't do it. Just said handle things yourself. Mm. Yeah, ungrateful peasants kind of is what they say. A hooker is cheaper than marrying the wrong woman. But then again I say if that's all you need a woman for is a hooker, yeah, then don't risk it. Why risk a disease? Why risk getting robbed? Why lower your moral consciousness or whatever? I don't know. It's just not worth it. If that's all you need is a cheap roll in the hay, you know, there's just easier ways to do that. But anywho, hey, Rob is here. Hey, Rob, thank you. Hiring a hooker. I feel like I've missed something here. Yes, we got off on a bit of a rabbit trail. Thank you, vulgar display of truth. Yeah, and goats don't count. Uh, what we were saying, Rob, is that one of the rules for being a man is never pay for orgasms. And that statement was more controversial in the chat than I thought it would be. uh, but I mean, I get the sentiment. I've had a terrible divorce and an unhappy marriage that that precluded. I think it's precluded that terrible divorce. That was very, very expensive. I'm still paying for that divorce. Uh, uh, yeah, I'm grateful present. I married the wrong woman too initially. Uh, it was it had times that were okay. I mean, at the time, I thought I was happy. The problem, the marriage had its problems. It was not a healthy relationship. It was not founded on healthy foundations, and not everyone's cards were all on the table. Uh, but it wasn't like misery every day or anything. Maybe every week, but not every day. There were good. There were good times. The problem came when it ended. Then the misery kicked in, and it was not good. But I did get 5 beautiful children out of it. All of my grandchildren to this date have come from those 5 children. So, you know, you ever hear of Mike B? He rants on his channel about the fall of the cheap collector's guns. That's kind of a oxymoron, though. Cheap collector's guns. They wouldn't. I guess some surplus used to be cheap that you would collect. Okay, never mind. I take that back. I can see that. If you're collecting for your interest in a certain topic and area, so you want to get the surplus guns all out of a typical or of a specific category or subject. You want all the guns of World War II or the guns of World War I, or I get that. I can see that. The problem is that there's just not that many anymore. There's not going to be any surplus out of Vietnam. There's not going to be any surplus out of Desert Storm. Uh, all that great surplus that now there's the stuff coming out of Ethiopia is interesting, but it's not cheap. But they've been bringing a ton of stuff out of Ethiopia lately that's very, very, very interesting. I guess they just got a big load of M1 carbines. Uh, and Ethiopia is one of those countries that always interests me anyway. And I'm very, very interested in Ethiopia for a whole host of reasons. Well, I wouldn't mind owning some Ethiopian guns, but I can't afford them. I can't afford any guns right now. I want a hunting rifle. Uh, I mean, I have four AR-15s in there and a 12 gauge shotgun with a slug barrel in it. So I have hunting guns, but I want a dedicated hunting rifle because I'm stupid. Uh, so I might add that. I still have that 6.8 SPC bolt I need to do something with. I've still got that 9mm lower I need to do something with. So I can't really justify buying a hunting rifle. Huh. Isaac, I would love to have a Ruger number 1 and 30-06 back again. I had one. It was fantastic little rifle. It was an international, so it had a 16-inch barrel. It had a Mannlicher stock, which meant the wood goes all the way to the end of the barrel. It just pointed itself. It was so light. It was just, oh, God, it was beautiful. I loved it. But it was my only rifle, and I decided if I was only going to have one rifle, it better be an AR-15. So I sold it to build my first AR. 30-30 lever is a great gun. If I was going to get a lever action, though, I would get a 357 or a 41 mag. For where we're at, a 100-yard shot up here is just unheard of. You'd have to be shooting football players on the football field to get a 100-yard shot. And I mean, not that 30-30 can't do that, but the 357 out of a 16-inch barrel will kill anything I needs killing around here. Yeah, I remember the $69 SKSs. Actually, I might remember $59 SKSs, or maybe that were Mosin Nagants. But I can remember there used to be a retail kind of it was like a Kmart, but it was called Roses. And they would have they had a sporting goods section in there, and you could. And I remember there being military surplus guns in there for $59. And all kinds of weird stuff. I remember a 308 jungle carbine. I didn't know what it was at the time. I just remember there's that cone on the end. The muzzle device is like this weird cone, and there might be other guns that have that too. So I guess, but I remember. Thank you, Jim. I remember specifically as a kid, seeing that cone on a gun and thinking, well, that's weird. And then later on, I saw other things like it, and if you found a 303, a Lee Enfield jungle carbine conversion right now, it's, I don't even speculate. I bet it's $1,500. But it was just on this rack with all this other garbage. Garbage, I mean, you know what I'm saying. It was on a little spinny circular thing, and everything on that was under, I know it was under $200. But I specifically remember something for $59, and it might have been a Mosin Nagant. Somebody was saying something about a lever action in 308, which is like the 1895, basically. That's why that's what that was designed for, full length, Spitzer bullets, pointed bullets. It's basically a box. Militant Roots retracted a message. I wonder what that was. Yeah, that's an interesting rifle. Again, I'd like to have a 308. I don't need a 308. Like I said, there's nowhere here for me to shoot a 308 unless I've got I suddenly got friends with someone who owned pasture, and so could shoot across a pasture, let me hunt their pasture, and they weren't worried about me killing their cows. Uh, but I don't have any friends like that, so a 308 would be fun. I could justify it because, the oppressors probably would have some 308 weapons that could be scavenged ammunition from. And so it makes sense from that standpoint. Although, now here's an interesting thought. Are you ready for this? Is it time to start looking for a bolt-action rifle in 270 Fury? This new round that the military is allegedly switching to, so that then you'd be able to scavenge rounds from the oppressors. That's an interesting thought. If someone made a value bolt action chambered in that 270 Fury, that would be something that you could justify having, in the back of the safe, just in case. Discuss amongst yourselves. I wonder how hard it would be to rechamber something in that. Like a Savage or a Ruger American, or just one of those low end bolt actions chambered in that new 270. Yeah, Bear Claw, just take their gun, in theory. But if you could have the capability for under $500 and use it as a hunting rifle, that seems like an interesting capability to have in the back of the safe or in the front of the safe, because there's nothing wrong with that bullet. Its ballistics are fine. It's going to be a great hunting round. And if the military is mass producing hundreds of millions of them, it just seems like it makes sense to be able to shoot them. Yeah, Lance Corporal Veteran, yeah, you're right. You're right. This is not like there's going to be ammo laying. It's not like a video game where you're running around, and I've been playing Halo with the boys here lately. And you're constantly running up on ammunition and grenades and guns laying around the ground. Obviously, that's not the case. However, it's just a capability. If your entire plan is built around scavenging, finding ammo on the battlefield, obviously, you're an idiot and you're going to die. But just in case, why, if you're going to have a rifle anyway, why wouldn't you have one that could use ammunition that is available, no matter how available? Now, we're not talking about how available, but you do know for a fact that there's hundreds of millions of these rounds somewhere. There's not hundreds of millions of 7.65 French or whatever. There's not hundreds of millions of 8mm Mauser. There's not hundreds of millions of rounds of whatever. But somewhere on this continent, there's hundreds of millions of rounds of 5.56. Now, there's probably billions of rounds of 5.56. There's about to be hundreds of millions of rounds of this 270 Fury. Hundreds of millions. Why wouldn't you want to be able to, at least potentially, use that? I agree. It's not there laying on the ground. But it's at least feasible. It's at least intellectually feasible that you have more access to that than you have to, whatever else, 30 carbine. 303 British. Pick any of these rounds that there's just not all of it out there anymore. And the sources for it can be cut off. They wave a magic wand tomorrow, pass all the laws they want to pass. and your ammo is illegal now, whatever that is, they're still going to have ammo. Maybe you can get to it, maybe you can't. But you know what you can't get to, and that's the ammo that doesn't exist. That's not there at all. Uh, just saying. I'd like to, Lance Corporal Veteran, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And you are exactly right, Lance Corporal Veteran. Uh, if you don't have food, it doesn't matter how much ammo you have. If you had to pick one, you pick the food. But by God, you want to do whatever you can to get ammo as soon as you have that food secured. But yeah, if you're stacking bullets deep and you don't have a plan for food production, or if you don't have a lot of food stacked, well then and there's nothing wrong if you don't think that there's any need for you to have food stacked. That's fine. I'm not, but you're not prepared. You're a gun collector. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. But just that's what you are. You're a gun enthusiast, and nothing more. What did Rob say that was so? Thanks, 10 Tigers. And 8mm is a great round. I'm not saying anything wrong bad about it. It's the differences between it and 30-06 are minimal. I think 8mm is a fine round. It's just not available in huge quantities. We're talking about the Mini 14 a lot. My Mini 14 has eaten everything I fed it. I have read that the Mini 30 does not like the cheap import ammo, and I am fine with that. It's not an AK. Ungrateful Peasant, I have the Mini 30. My dad has it right now. It's a long story. It was my mother's rifle. She gave it to me. My father said that no, that's his rifle, because it was hers. Obviously, it's his. And my mother gives it back to me every once in a while, and my dad comes and takes it away every once in a while. They're gonna die eventually. It'll come to me. I know where it's at. But I've shot it a lot. I have shot a lot of, maybe not a lot, but all the ammo I've shot through it has been cheap steel case Russian stuff. It fed it fine. I've never had a problem out of that Mini 30. I think it's an excellent little rifle. I think if you're just determined to shoot 7.62 by 39 out of a semi-automatic rifle, you are far better served by the Mini 30 than anything that ever came out of that crap communist shithole over there. It's a fine little rifle. I've shot it out to 100 yards, nothing more than that. I shot a crow one time at 100 yards with it, with a scope. One shot, that thing disintegrated. I like the rifle. And like I said, if you're gonna shoot 7.62 by 39 for some reason, I don't know why you wouldn't shoot a Mini 30 unless you got a $79 SKS. In which case, why wouldn't you get a $79 SKS? Yeah, I like the Ruger Minis. Like I said, I have that Mini 30, and then I've had 6 Mini 14s over the years, and I have never been disappointed with one of them. I thought they were fine rifles for what they were. I don't have one now because I've got all these AR-15s, and what does a Mini 30 do that an AR-15 doesn't do better? But it's just because I can't justify the redundancy. I like the platform. I love the company. I'm a Ruger fanboy. Yeah, and an Ungrateful Peasant's right. And that's why Isaac has one, because it doesn't look like a scary black gun. It's got a wood stock. It looks, people who don't know any better think it's, a bolt action or something. Nice dig, Isaac. Well done. Yeah, Lance Corporal Veteran, and I think that's That's a little sad. No one's buying guns for fun anymore. Um, I mean, guns are like any machinery, any equipment. Motorcycles, cars. They have a charm all of their own, and they don't have to be. Uh, they don't have to all be tactical, and they don't all have to have uses. They can just be interesting machinery that you like. And it's a shame that the market is homogenizing so much. Everything is an AR-15. And I love the AR-15. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'm a fanboy. Or everything's a polymer striker-fired Glock clone, or everything's a 1911. And the quirky and the weird and the useless or the interesting is just all filtering out of the marketplace, and it's a shame. Rob is saying that one of the things he likes about the Mini 14 is how easy it takes down, and when the stock comes apart from the barrel receiver, it becomes short enough to get into a small duffel bag, easy to get in places. It does come apart easy. Obviously, it doesn't break in half as easy as the AR does, but it does break down in half. The one, this isn't the problem with the rifle as designed. The one thing I would say with this is that if the bolt comes out, it's a little bit of I don't want to say a pain in the ass, but getting the bolt back in to the receiver is a little bit of a juggling act. You've got to have it at the exact right angle. I think you've got to have the firing pin pulled back or something. It's been a long time since I've done this. And then you just sort of have to jiggle it the right way, and and then it won't go, and you just keep, and then finally just sort of goes in all of a sudden, you don't even know why. Hey, thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. And so and it comes out the same way, so you break that. If any of you don't know how the Mini 14 comes apart, it's just like with the Garand or the M1 carbine. The trigger guard pries out, and when the trigger guard pries out, you can pull the whole trigger guard assembly out. And then when you do, the upper receiver and the barrel just tilt out of the stock. And then there's an operating rod that comes off then at that point. Or, I mean, if you've got it on the gas, what is that called? Is the gas? I guess it's the gas tube, but it's not a gas tube the way you would think of. It was called the gas port. Let's say gas port. That might be the right. So it's over the gas port, but it's going to fall off. If you keep it upside down, it won't. But as soon as the operating rod is going to fall off of the. Oh no, because there's that spring and that guide rod underneath there too. But that spring and that guide rod come off very easy. So you've got the receiver, you've got the barrel, you've got I think operating rod's the right way to say it. It's the piston, but it's attached to it's got the charging handle on it, and it's kind of got this weighted piece down here, and it fits over the gas port, what we're calling the gas port. And then there's a guide rod and a spring that's sort of, that it moves on, but it's not really holding it in place. It's going to fall off of there pretty easy. And then when it does, that operating rod at the charging handle, it has a little track that a piece of the bolt rides in, and now the bolt's kind of just flopping loose in the receiver. So if you do this, if you break it in half, the long explanation why we're talking about all this, I'm sorry, is that if you do that, if you break it in half, you're not going to have two halves that you can just slap back together, push two pins and go. You're going to have a completely disassembled rifle. So you're going to have the stock, you're going to have the trigger assembly, you're going to have the upper receiver, then you're going to have the guide rod and spring, and then you're going to have the piston, the operating rod, or whatever the right term for that. So you're going to have like 6 pieces. And then the bolt may or may not fall out of the receiver. So you might even have 7 pieces. So you've completely field stripped the rifle basically at this point. And if you, and that's fine for transport, but now you just got to have in your mind, okay, this isn't, pull it out, boom, you're reinserting the bolt, you're reassembling the springs, and the whole thing is field stripped. It's in 6 or 7 pieces, and you've got to put it all back together. Okay, the Henry lever action isn't considered tack by many, but I love them, and I sure are pretty. And just plain say America to me. I love the lever actions. I like the Henrys. I have one beef with the Henry. It's heavy. And if you've ever shot the Rossi R92, and then you go handle, and I've never shot the Henrys, so I mean I've shot the 22s. I used to own a Henry 22 lever action, and I put a lot of rounds through that one, but I've never shot any of the like the ones that would compete with the R92. But you hold that Rossi, and it almost has no weight, and then you pick up a Henry, and it's 8 damn pounds, and they fought for years not to put a loading gate on them for some reason. And the price is so much more. I'm looking at that Rossi and I'm looking at that Henry, and the Rossi's a better gun. And there's just, to me, there's no other way around that. Man, maybe it needs a break-in period. Maybe it's a little finicky during that break-in period. But at the end of the day, the Rossi is lighter and it's handier, and that's what a pistol caliber lever action is all about. It's light and it's handy, and if it's not those two things, unless it's just a fun gun. If you like the way it looks, if you like the way it shoots, all of that's perfectly legitimate, and I'm not dissing that. But for me, where I'm at, I'm not a collector. I'd love to be a collector, but I don't have the resources to be a collector. If I have a gun, it has to, at least in theory, fill a niche. When I look at the Henry and I look at the Rossi, the Henry, as much as I love Made in America, the Henry doesn't compete with the Rossi. Now, I know the Henry, they've got the 30-30 that Rossi doesn't have, and they've got the full size high powered ones. I can't remember if they're 1895s or not, but they've got the big ones that can fire modern bullets. Obviously, at that point there's no comparison because Rossi just doesn't have anything that does that. So I'm not dissing Henry. Yeah, Rossi's still around, Liberty Garden. They got bought out by Brass Tech. So either Rossi bought Taurus or Taurus bought Rossi. I don't remember which it is. Or maybe Brass Tech bought both. I don't remember. But the parent company now is Brass Tech. And they import down in somewhere here in Georgia. I think it's down in South Georgia maybe, where they import into. Yeah, they're still around. And they're still importing some revolvers too, if I remember correctly. Okay, what'd I miss? Henry went so long without a loading gate and paying influencers to keep promoting it without a loading, saying stupid things while loading from the front end of the tube is better. Yeah, loading from the front end of the tube is ridiculous. I'm not a safety Nazi, but it's not safe. You're putting your hand in front of the muzzle. And not that, boy, it's not that it's unsafe, it's that it's a bad idea. The muzzle stays downrange. And when you're loading from the muzzle, I don't like, and I have one, because I have a little lever action 22 Rossi, and I actually have a Rossi. Forgot about that. They've started importing the gallery gun again, a little pump action 22, and I have one. and you load it from, the tube magazine you load from the front. So it's not like, I refuse to do it, but it's a bad idea, because it's a bad habit, or a bad, yeah, it's just a bad, it's bad. You don't need to be putting your hand in front of the muzzle of a loaded gun. End of story. Especially if you've been shooting and you didn't empty the rifle for whatever reason. You still got rounds in the rifle. So now you've got a loaded rifle. Even if you open the bolt, which obviously you should, you open the bolt, you've still got a round on that lifter down there. So you got to reach up, pull out the tube, dump the ammo, and usually that means, dumping the ammo into your hand. Then you've got to close the action, and then work the action again to eject the round that was on the lifter. So the lifters are already problematic from a safety standpoint, because you've got a round in the chamber, you've got a round on the lifter, and you've got rounds in the magazine. So you eject the round in the chamber, you dump the magazine. In your mind, you've unloaded this weapon, but you haven't, because there's a round on the lifter. And most of you guys know this, but so you've got the tubular magazine running under the rifle this way, so there's no spring pressure pushing rounds up. You've got to mechanically lift the round from the back of the magazine up to the chamber where the bolt can push it in. So you've always got you've got a round in the magazine that's pushing a round back onto the lifter, and then you've got a round in the chamber. So you eject the round from the chamber, and so that there's a round on the lifter underneath, waiting for the bolt to come back and pick it up. So the lifters come up with a round, in position for the bolt. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. And then whatever's in the magazine's in the tubular magazine. You dump that, so all that's gone. So now you've got a bullet that's not in the magazine and not in the chamber, and your chamber's to the rear. And so when you close the action, however you do that, slide or pump, or pump or lever, you've now taken that bullet from the lifter and put it in the chamber. Even though in your mind, you've ejected a round from the chamber, you've dumped all the rounds from the magazine, you still have another step where you have a loaded chamber. So already tubular magazines have a safety challenge, and now you're putting your hand out in front of the muzzle. Has anyone ever made a semi-auto 30-30? So the challenge there would be the rim. The 30-30 has a large rim, which messes with most styles of magazine. But surely someone has chambered a BAR in 30-30. I would be shocked that if there hasn't been a BAR 30-30 somewhere. And a quick internet search would turn that up. Got 35 Remingtons, cost $5 a cartridge. Jeez. I'm speculating, Rob. I don't know that for sure, but I just bet you, as long as that rifle's been around and all of the different things they've chambered it in, I bet it's been chambered in 30-30 at least once. Let's do a search. Sorry, I try to stay out of the chat so that there's not too much dead space, but this is an interesting question. I'll stop it. Oh, well, the very first answer is someone saying, I'm not aware of such a thing. Okay, so what is this? Not in 3030. 30-06. Not in 3030. Remington model, not in 3030. Not in 3030. Well, that was a bust. Okay, here's someone else saying the same thing. I want a 3030 and a semi-auto. Well, maybe there's not one. I'm on multiple threads that's just no one's saying that they know of one. Although everyone's saying 300 blackout is comparable to 3030, and I question that. Maybe it is. Yeah, a quick internet search isn't turning anything up. So maybe there's never been a 3030 semi-auto. Here's one that just says, why not 3030 and semi-auto. Someone makes a good point that 762 by 39 is so similar to 3030 that I just, there's someone somewhere. Okay, so standard model M was offered in 3030, early 1900s. So let's look that up. Sorry, I bet we just lost everyone in the chat. But this is a fascinating question to me that I've never thought of before. Standard Arms Model M. It says it's a slide action. Oh, it could be used in either semi-auto or pump action mode. It's on Forgotten Weapons. Okay, at the end of the 20th century, prior to World War I, there were actually 3 semi-auto sporting rifles on the market in the US. 2 commonly known ones are the Winchester Model 5, 7, 10 and the Remington Model 8. Much less recognized as the Standard Arms Model G. It was a rifle that could be used in either semi-auto or pump action mode, and it was also sold in a pump-only variant as the Model M. While this variant sidestepped the most significant parts breakage issues that plagued the Model G, it was a poor competitor to the Remington Model 14 pump-action rifle and failed to sell well enough to save Standard Arms from a quick bankruptcy. Of course, this doesn't say what it was chambered in. But at least somebody says that the standard model was chambered in 3030. And I will do some more research on this. Hold on one second. We'll check out one more. It's a pretty looking gun. I like it. Okay, we'll just scan in. Okay, so this is saying standard arms models, standard arms model G and model M were made in 25 Remington, 30 Remington, and 35 Remington. Well, I don't know. I found one source that said that this rifle was made in 30-30, and then I found one source that doesn't list that, so I'll stop boring you. Okay, that was a rabbit hole. I apologize. Yes, anti-head jack. That was a rabbit hole. That it is a weird design, isn't it, Rob? I've never heard of it before. I'm probably going to do a Forgotten Weapons deep dive now. But yeah, standard. I think Standard Arms was the name of the company. I have seen that pump action AR-15, Isaac, and it's kind of cool. I kind of like it. But yeah, it could be a semi-auto or pump. That is a really interesting. I don't know much about 350 Legend, and I haven't seen that 7-shot revolver. Anywho, all right. Well, you've all been very patient with me while I told myself happy birthday. I appreciate it. Wes said he was going to put in an appearance in the chat, but Evil Hairless Monkey. It's Tex. How you doing, Tex? It's good to know you're still alive, bud. I don't think we've seen you in a while. Thank you, Arcadio. I hate it that I was ending the chat right as Tex showed up. Still up to no good. But we are 107 minutes in. Hi, Kimmy. Of course, I guess we want another 20 minutes. We could do a full 2 hours. But I kind of ran out of things to say. I'm sorry. I mean, obviously, I really kind of blew my groove while I was out researching semi-automatic 30-30. Somebody has made a semi-automatic 30-30 rifle. I refuse to believe that there's not one out there somewhere. Yeah, I'm gonna check out that Colt Mustang 380. Isaac, I got your text. I just, I'm doing the live stream on my phone. Well, I tell you what, we'll stay on for a little while there since Kimmy and Tex just got here. We won't shut it down just a second. Let me get a drink. Yeah, Isaac, if you're leaving, thank you for moderating. I do not have a moderator now if Isaac's leaving. I don't know why Rob's not already a moderator. All right, Rob, you're a moderator. So y'all don't go anywhere. I'm gonna get a drink real quick, and we're gonna come back and we'll keep going. We'll probably try to get to 2 hours. I don't know how to change your name on chats. Yeah, I think you can change your username on the account. No, Tex, we're gonna go for another 20, 30 minutes maybe. I'm just gonna get a drink real quick. Or not. Ooh, that's hurtful. Oh, thank God. thought I was out of sweet tea for a minute. So, if y'all have never had the great southern, I don't know if it's a southern treat or not, but I never see them anywhere but down south. But if y'all have never had cowtails, y'all missing out. Oh yeah, Aid, I'll check out Bud's gun shop. I don't have the money to buy a new pistol right now, so I won't be picking that one up as much as I'd like to. So these same things, up north I've seen the Gates, or Gets, I'm not sure how to pronounce them, maybe it's Gets. And they're the little caramels with the white powder centers. They call these cowtails because they're usually longer. These are the minis. Because, you know, they're brown and then they look like they have a white bone in the middle. These are some of the best. I love them. But my dad used to buy us the Getz ones when I was kids. He'd go into the gas station to pay, and he'd come back out with a handful of them. And then he'd get in the vehicle, whatever we were driving at the time. And there were 4 of us boys. And then he'd throw them at our heads. We'd have to sit still, and then he'd see if he could hit us with them by throwing them over his shoulders. It's pretty fun. Oh, bit of honey, Kimmy. I love bit of honey. I haven't had one of those in a while. I have never shot a Wilson Combat Vulgar. I've heard good things about them, but I've never shot one. I don't know if I've ever even held one. Oh, I love cowtails. They're so good. Okay, who said they have them in Michigan? Oh, Landon Wold said we have cowtails in Michigan. So maybe it's not just a southern thing. Maybe I just only don't leave the South that much. A Landon Tactical 92. I'm not familiar with that. Expensive, tight, and reliable, like a good hooker. Sorry, it's late. That was a men's only joke. I should have checked to make sure there aren't any women in the chat. Funny line though. Yeah, the hookers are back. Anyone tried Mexican fruit candy? I have not. I had a Mexican beer sucker one time that was just awful. Or at least very, very wrong. Maybe it was good, but it just, you know, it didn't work. But it was shaped like a beer stein, and then the foam on top was white, and the bottom was like a yellow beer color. I don't remember where I got it. Maybe my mom brought it back from Mexico. She lived there for a while. My parents lived there for a while. Okay. Last one. I lost chat. Armadillos from Texas. Aid does not like Spanish beer. I tell you, I wasn't a beer drinker yet when I was in Spain. Is Amstel? I'm 47, Rob. Is Amstel Spanish? I think it is. But I didn't like Amstel. But it was Amstel Light. I never had real Amstel. I don't like light beer. But Amstel Light sucked. But I was in Spain and I couldn't afford the expensive import beers that I was used to. you know, Budweiser and Miller High Life or Genuine Draft. Oh, Amstel is Dutch. I'm sorry. Thank you, Anti-Jack. I also tend to not like Belgian beer. I don't know why. Just most of it's bad. I hate is it Blue Moon? It's Belgian style beer. Yeah, Budweiser is utter pig swill. I won't drink it anymore. So now I'm to the point where I don't drink much beer, and if I do drink beer, it's going to have to be good beer that I like. And I do not want to get drunk because I do not enjoy the aftermath of being drunk anymore. It is not worth it. Del La Vegas, I'll look into it. What I really like right now in beers is simple lagers like Yingling, good lagers, or porters and stouts. And I'll drink other beers, especially if someone else is buying. I mean, if you buy me a beer, I'm going to drink your beer. I'm not ever going to turn down a beer. But if I'm going to buy the beer, then it's going to be a good beer that I enjoy drinking, and I'm not going to drink a lot of it. I used to really like Miller Genuine Draft. Porter is a good beer, Aid. I, I'm sorry, the English make good beer. Newcastle Brown Ale is one of my all-time favorites, although it doesn't fit those two categories I just gave, but still, I really love Newcastle. Cold or free, the two best beers. Uh, there's this thing called a Taddy Porter or Tadcaster. The best beer to this day. I've never had a better beer than that Taddy Porter or that Tadcaster. Uh, it's fantastic. Uh, yeah, the Yingling Black and Tan is good. I enjoy it a lot. Uh, but I just tend to like porters and stouts. I enjoy stouts. I like stouts. I'll drink them. Uh, but if I have the choice, I want the porter. Yeah. You know, so it's possible, ungrateful peasant. I've never had a good black and tan, so I don't know. I can tell you this: I do enjoy the Yingling Black and Tan, and the other good beer Yingling has is the Golden Pilsner. So Lance Corporal Veteran, I think technically ale doesn't have any hops. Uh, I think, but uh, I also think that these categories have gotten a little skewed over the years, and that sometimes stuff gets called ale just because it's traditionally been called ale. Uh, but I think if you go by the definitions, ale doesn't have any hops in it. It's beer without hops. Okay, if you like English beer, it must be cask pulled. I've probably never had cask pulled beer. I don't know when I would have. I also have never tried much warm beer. And I think a lot of English beer, British beer is supposed to be warm. Buffalo Trace. When I was in Las Vegas back in January, I had a really good porter at a casino that had something about a buffalo on it. It might have been black buffalo or brown buffalo or I don't know, but it was a porter and it was really, really good. But it was also free. So it's hard for a free porter to be bad. Uh, yeah, the Yingling Black and Tan is a little more recent. Oh, Age says that they like cold beer now. Oh, that's his bourbon. Errol's bourbon is Buffalo Trace. I haven't tried that. I really, really was enjoying bourbon for a while, but not expensive bourbons. And but then I got into ryes, and I was really liking ryes. And then I got so plastered drunk one night that I have forsworn liquor, not completely, but almost completely. It was just awful. It's just not fun. But I was really enjoying the bourbon. My go to I really was enjoying at that point was Bullet. It Bulleit, and then that's how I got into the ryes because Bullet had a really nice bourbon I was enjoying, and then I tried the Bullet also had the rye, and it was even better. And so I started getting into the ryes, and I found the one I loved. It's the name is just R.I. I guess it's rye. Oh, Ungrateful Peasant likes the Bullet rye too, and that was even better, but it's expensive. But I was really, really enjoying the Bullet rye. And then I was at a buddy's house, and he had this peanut butter infused bourbon, which sounds just awful. And normally I won't drink anything that's flavored or infused. It's if I don't like flavored beers or any of that stuff. If it's not good enough the way it is, then adding flavor to it isn't going to change anything. But for some reason, you could just really slam this peanut butter whiskey, whatever the hell it was. I don't remember. Uh, Backbone rye. I'll keep an eye out for it. And so I was at a buddy's house drinking his peanut butter whiskey, which I'm embarrassed to even say. And I was slamming it for some stupid reason. And I just got roaring drunk. It was the last time I've been drunk. I hope it's the last time I ever get drunk. Because I was puking my guts out. I was way too old to be that drunk. Uh, yeah, if whiskey's got to get mixed with something, then it's not good whiskey, and I don't want to drink it. Same thing with my beer. If you got to flavor it, what's wrong with the beer? If I wanted to drink Kool-Aid, I'd have drank Kool-Aid. Rob says, hope it's the last time I get drunk. I have said that more than once. Me too. I think, in years past, I'd said I'd never want to do this again, but, I enjoyed it. I was still having a good time. These last two times, it's just not fun. It's not worth it. Yeah, yeah. If I'm gonna drink whiskey, I'm gonna sip it. It's gonna be straight. And if it needs something, if it needs ice, if you got to mix it with something, then don't waste my time. If it starts your motor, what does it say about its taste? Yeah, yeah. I guess grain alcohol. But I don't drink the white. I'll have some moonshine occasionally if someone's got it. I don't. Oh, and you know what? I don't really mind flavored moonshines, so I'm a little bit of a hypocrite. Hmm. But otherwise, you're just drinking. Like Lance Corporal Veteran said, you're just drinking fuel at that point. Moonshine is just it's straight race car fuel, literally. Maker's Mark is really good. Maker's Mark is what I started when I first started trying whiskeys. I started with Maker's Mark, and I still the couple of usually when I do something like that, my palate evolves pretty quickly and I start moving into directions. But the last time I'd had Maker's Mark, it had been a while, and I went back to it, and it was still good. I still enjoyed it. Yeah, Peach Shine is really, really good. Moonshine with cocaine. Just possibly just guys that couldn't hold their liquor. Yeah, Shine is a different. I've been drunk on moonshine once because I don't drink it often, and when I do, I'm being careful because I don't buy it. You know what I did have one time that I enjoyed was absinthe, and we did the whole thing, pouring it over Mariah and I. Uh, yeah, yeah. Beer now is like a Snowflakes coffee order at Starbucks. It's all pumpkin spice, and they pour all these hops into it, and all blackberry and not just weird shit. It's not beer. If you want to drink Kool-Aid, drink Kool-Aid. There's nothing wrong with Kool-Aid. It's fine. You're not unmanly because you drink Kool-Aid. You're unmanly if you drink Kool-Aid and you're ashamed of it, so you try to pretend it's beer. Uh, but we did the whole absinthe thing with pouring it over the sugar cubes, and I actually really enjoyed it because there was a process. Anything that's a process, like smoking a cigar is a process. You're doing it for the experience. You're not doing it to smoke nicotine. If you were trying to just want to smoke nicotine, you'd have a cigarette. And absinthe had that same process to it that cigars have. Uh, Rebel Yell. That sounds familiar. So I really enjoyed the absinthe, but I don't remember it being any kind of a different drum. I tell you what. Oh God, what was There's this mixed drink called a Royal Flush, and I don't remember what all's in it, but I know there's like, hey, Elkound, I have not touched the root cellar since the last time we talked about it. No, no, that's not true. I did. I have doubled the size of the root cellar. We've got stuff down there right now. It is not. It's not where it's going to end at though. So there's something I got to do something I want to do next. It's always the project you got to do the project you want to do. Uh, but yeah, the root cellar continues apace. But as usual, my pace is very slow. What was I saying? Hmm. I don't remember what I was saying. Moonshine is really easy to make. You put corn and you make a mash and you let it sit for a week. Then you distill it out. And if you're crazy, you triple distill it and get it up to 92% or whatever the hell it is. Proper absinthe. This stuff marketed it itself, claimed it was real absinthe. I don't know if it was or not, but it said it was. Yeah, Royal. Oh, I saw. Oh, Royal Flush. Thank you. I don't remember what was in the Royal Flush. I know it was. Thank you, Militant Roots. I know it's got like cranberry juice or something like cranberry juice, and I think it has Crown Royal in it because that's where the Royal came from. But then there was a few other things in there, and I was just back when I was waiting tables at Applebee's, and for some reason the store manager just started mixing us all these Royal Flushes one night after the shift was over. I don't know why. And they were pouring, man, whatever was in that thing, I ended up in a fist fight in the parking lot. But I wasn't angry. It wasn't mad. I was really in this great, mellow, cool, fun place. And, I was beating this guy's face in and just sort of, oh, this is interesting, huh? I didn't beat him bad. I don't. It was so stupid. I was really happy and drunk, and but I was in this weird place where like I wasn't in my head. I was like back here watching, and I was really into ballroom dancing at the time, and so I was doing a cha cha by myself in the parking lot while we were all walking out, and one of the cooks walks by and said, "Faggot," because I had some Cuban motion, and I remember thinking, "Oh, I've got to punch this guy now. That's cool." But it was like this friendly thing, like he had called me a faggot, so I had to punch him. But it wasn't because I was mad at him. It's just because that was the socially required thing to do. You know, a man calls you a faggot. Oh, he wants to fight, and I owe him a fight. You know, I'm a polite man, and you know, I don't want to violate the social graces here. We have to fight. So I started punching him, and he was a young guy. I was in my 30s, and he was in his 20s. This is a man on man, and he was a little skinnier than me, but he was also a little taller than me. And he never swung back. I don't remember how many times I hit him, but I remember he was laying on the ground, and all these waitresses swarmed me and threw me in this car. And I was still just this really happy, mellow place, and I was watching him and just, you know, sort of thought we were friends. We just, you know, we had to fight for some reason. And he jumps up and starts hitting his girlfriend. His girlfriend was trying to help him, and he jumped up and punched her. And he had this really nice little red Ford Ranger, and he started smashing his truck up. He knocked the he, he hit the windshield and cracked the windshield, and he knocked the rear view mirrors off of both sides, and he did something to the passenger side door too. He messed his truck up, and ended up in rehab 2 days later. I saw him. I mean, I felt really bad at that point, you know. I saw him later. His name was Joe. And I said, Joe, man, I'm really sorry about that. I don't know. I mean, well, man, you should be. That really messed up my life, you know. How a lot of things go wrong because of that. It's like, yeah, you kind of started it, you know. It's not, you know, obviously, yeah, I'm a grown man and in my 30s. I should have been able to laugh off this, you know, early 20s punk and his stupid little insult. But at the same time, I was drunk, you know, you got to start throwing words around. You know, sometimes consequences just have actions. Or I'm sorry, actions just have consequences. Not, you know, maybe it was my fault, but probably not completely unexpected that you were going to get punched at that point. But I have no idea what was in there, but it just put me in this weird headspace. I mean, weird, because I wasn't angry, I wasn't insulted, I wasn't mad. I just, you know, it was part of the social contract. This man had invited me to a fight, and it would be rude for me not to fight with him. Red context boxes. Connex. I know autocorrect did that to you, ungrateful peasant, but that's just funny. Good old Connex boxes. You could sneak anything in and out of country with a Connex box. Uh, okay, one and a quarter ounce Crown Royal Fine Deluxe, quarter ounce peach schnapps, 3 ounce cranberry juice. Well, that doesn't sound like it had anything too crazy in it. I just felt like there was something in there that messed with my brain chemistry, but surely it wasn't schnapps. And of course, Crown Royal is horse piss. This guy's uncle warned him if he made homemade prison wine from grape juice, you might go temporarily blind. Yeah, prison wine, you make that in the toilet. Anywho, okay. Not that I've ever had prison wine. When I was in jail, I was only in there for about 2.5 months, so it wasn't enough time to make any really good wine. Oh, Rob, maybe it was that schnapps that got me, but I was in this weird headspace that night. I don't know what was going on. We used to make a lot of mead here, uh, but honey's just so expensive we don't make it anymore. But mead's really easy to make, and the way I did it, it could either be really good or it'd be vinegar, and there was kind of no other options. Yeah, we're gonna start Sukkot tomorrow. Uh, oh yeah, well again, no, it starts tonight. That's right. Yeah, it started at sundown. But I'll build our sukkah, our little hut. I'll build that tomorrow, and we'll start doing that this week. Yeah, meat is really good, Rob. If it turned out good, mine wasn't uh, precise. I didn't have a process or anything. I put it in a bucket. Mixed it, put it in a bucket, and just let what happened happen. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it would turn out really, really good, and then sometimes it was just vinegar, very good vinegar, but actual real vinegar. Uh, oh, ungrateful peasants is saying schnapps will get you too. Nice, Errol. Good night. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Rydon. I appreciate that. Oh, it's this guy's from Newcastle. That's awesome. I don't know if you were on here earlier, Mr. Rydon, but we were talking about how Newcastle was one of my favorite beers of all time. I love Newcastle ale, brown ale. I think they've got a blonde ale or whatever they call the non-brown ale, but I've never had it. I really like the brown ale. Newcastle is great beer. Oh wow, a half cup of mead with a wheat beer. That would be good. I like wheat beer too. Oh yeah, Mr. Right on. Literally, it wasn't that far back in the chat. We were talking about beers, and I was talking about how much I tend to enjoy English beer a lot, and the reason being that Newcastle Brown Ale is one of my favorite beers, and then I really like Taddy Porter or the Tadcaster. But yeah, if you go back in the thread just a little bit, you'll hear us talking about Newcastle. So that raises the question, Mr. Right on. Oh, how was weaned on it? I was going to ask you. We call it Mad Dog's piss. I love a Guinness in particular. So I have just recently started enjoying Guinness. They have something here they call the foreign. What is it? It's like the foreign export special, or I can't remember. I don't like the regular Guinness that much, but This was something special that I had it and I really liked it. English beer. I forgot all about that. I really like. And I haven't seen it in a while. You used to be able to get it at Walmart. Uh, it was in a can. It was in a tall can, and it had a bee on it. It was a yellow can. It was something with honey, or it was about honey, or I don't remember. But it was really, really good. And you would drink it in a frosted mug. Uh, anyway, 7.5 Nigerian Guinea. That does sound strong. Anyway, I can't remember what that. It was like the foreign special. I don't know. I'll look it up. Yeah, I'd love to go to an English pub and get the whole experience, and I bet anything would taste better in that sort of environment. Hell, Bud Light might taste good in an English pub. I wish I could remember what that Guinness was called because it was really, really good. Oh, you're saying that's what it's called, 7.5 Nigerian Guinness. Hmm. It might have been. That's not. That's probably the same stuff. That's not how they marketed it, but I bet you're right. Yeah, one day, Mr. Right On, when I get some more kids raised, I'm going to go to England and visit. Uh, Boddingtons. Boddingtons. That was really. Maybe it's not even really English, to be honest with you. It might just be that it sounds British because Boddingtons. But I really enjoyed the Boddingtons. Yeah, I don't see it anymore. But for a while, we could get it at Walmart of all places. Yeah, it was in a tall yellow can. It wasn't in bottles, but then it said specifically to serve it in a chilled glass. I enjoyed that. But nothing's better than that Tatty Porter. Oh, oh. Lance Corporal veteran. Yeah, Muslim cultures are funny. Cannabis and heroin for the holy, but alcohol is for sinners. Uh, Although interesting, Lance Corporal veteran, the highest alcohol sales in the world happen in Muslim countries during the month of Ramadan. More more per capita alcohol gets sold during those months than anywhere else, and high end shit too. Yeah, is there a big homebrew movement going on over there, Mr. Radon? Guinness is a complete, well fortified breakfast. They got this brewery not far from here that they actually sell what they call a breakfast stout because that is how thick it is. They also have an oatmeal stout. I can't remember. It's Highlands Brewing. But yeah, it's pretty thick. Ungrateful peasant remembered the big yellow can. Yeah, it's a very distinctive can, and I remember there's a bee on it. I gotta stop eating these peanuts. Okay. American beer has gotten a lot better over the years. The microbreweries have really helped. But then, but now it's taken this weird left turn into hops territory, where beer can't be beer. It's got to be oh, they're making moonshine, 60%. Nice. In this area we live in, you have heard of the Dukes of Hazzard. Mr. Rydon may not have heard of the Dukes of Hazzard, but then he may have to. But there's this old show in back in the '80s about these two kids running moonshine in Georgia. But that was set just south of Atlanta in the show. But the culture that they were kind of parodying was more centered right here where I live, to the north of Atlanta. And even going back into the '80s when I was a kid, this county was still dry. Actually, this county was dry into the '90s. I remember, actually, I was in high school when they finally let you be able to sell alcohol inside this county. And so running moonshine was a big deal. You know, you could make money at it. Obviously, there weren't, orange cars running up and down the roads at 100 miles an hour and police chases every day or anything, but every once in a while someone would get in a car wreck and all the moonshine in the trunk would shatter and be leaking out of the trunk, and they'd have to declare an emergency and get everyone away and call the fire department. Oh wow, there's still a dry county in Tennessee. Oh. Mr. Rydon, it's now legal here to make moonshine up to so many gallons. I don't remember how many. But it's enough that it's going to be really hard to get in trouble making moonshine anymore. But well, we were talking about a versatile. It is a versatile liquid. Oh, how weird American beer's gotten with the flavors and the hops. It's like, if you don't like beer, don't drink beer. But what are you doing with this? They'll put a gallon of hops in, a squirt of beer because why? I don't know. He refitted his car with a tank that would hold 50 gallons. Wow. Even today, you can sometimes get $60 for a quart or more. I mean, of good moonshine, it can be ridiculously expensive. 50 gallons of a quality moonshine back when counties were still dry was serious money. Ale Smith Brown Ale. I haven't had that, but Cronin's saying it's a great American-made English ale. And and Mr. Rydon says drinking moonshine should be mandatory. It has gotten me in trouble. Well, now the moonshine hasn't gotten me in trouble, but liquor in general has gotten me in trouble a few times. Oh, really, Rob? He was in this area? Man, this is one of the reasons there's so much national forest land in my county is because they couldn't control the moonshine, and so they bought up this one whole area. Yeah, IPAs taste like crap. They bought up thousands of acres of this one area so they could run all the people out of it because they couldn't stop the moonshine coming out of there. I mean, this was in the 1930s. Uh, it got so bad they just condemned the whole place and took everyone's land. I used to know some people who grew up in that area, and they said even they thought it was nuts, and they lived there, And this was way out in country. This was old school subsistence farming country. I mean, they didn't even know any better. It'd take you 2 or 3 days to get out of there if you wanted to go somewhere. Mm. Ah, it bit the crap out of my lip. But just crazy stories coming out of this place. Uh, so they condemned it and put a military base up there for just a year or two, and then the base closed and they turned it into national forest. Heard an old shiner who took a piston out of his car, ran it like hell to the drop, and dropped the piston back in. So, did he put the? Why did he take the piston out? I'm missing something. At one point in this state, the reason why they made it legal initially, bottle was in the cylinder. Okay, so he took out the piston and put the moonshine in the piston. Okay, that makes sense. Was that you could distill alcohol for fuel to run your car. So there were a bunch of people making car fuel. And finally they just said, well, this is ridiculous. We know these people aren't making fuel. They're making fuel for their life, maybe. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. All right, man. When I spend that much time in the chat, I know I've run out of things to say. We appreciate you all so much. The government's going to get its money. This is the problem. Here I go. This is the problem with marijuana legalization. They're not legalizing marijuana. They're going to still have the same problems they've always had with marijuana. It's just the government's going to get its slice, and they're still going to be throwing people in jail for having unlicensed, untaxed marijuana. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year without a license. And so they passed a law where you could make so many hundreds of gallons a year w I don't like marijuana. I've never tried it. Actually, I've never smoked it. But I don't like the effects I see it have in people's lives. I know. But I'm actually for legalization because we can't afford to criminalize it anymore. We've lost that fight. But if we're going to legalize it, we've got to legalize it. You know, own it, grow it, smoke it, no government involved. But if the government's involved, you're not legalizing it. You're getting all the downsides of having this drug in the community and none of the upsides of not having to police it. You're still policing it. You're still arresting people. There's still going to be a black market. You know, the government controlled marijuana trade is a stupid waste of time. Legalize it and leave it alone. Okay. Sorry. Oh yeah, the guy who invented the hydrogen engine. Men, we appreciate you. It's been a good stream. I've enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good evening.